Rain hammered the pavement as Victor stood frozen beneath the awning, clutching his phone as if it were a lifeline. Traffic roared behind him, horns blaring, yet all he heard was his own breath shaking in his chest. A briefcase slipped from his hand and hit the ground with a heavy crack, scattering documents across the wet sidewalk. He didn't bend to pick them up. His eyes were locked on the man curled beside the building, humming softly while the storm drenched the world around him. The tune felt strange, warm, out of place in the cold chaos. Victor's pulse kicked. Why was the man smiling? Why at this moment, in this weather, in this broken corner of the city? A flash of lightning lit the street, and Victor took a step toward him, then froze at the sound of the man whispering something Victor couldn't quite hear. Something meant for him. Victor finally forces his legs to move, stepping out from the safety of the awning. The storm drags across his shoulders like a heavy coat as he approaches Eli, who pauses his humming and looks up with eyes that seem to see through the noise of the street. Victor opens his mouth, but no words come. Only the raw tremble of someone who hasn't felt steady in years. Eli tilts his head, studying him, not with pity, but with patience. The simple warmth in his gaze stirs something Victor has long forgotten. A horn blares behind them, but neither man turns. Victor kneels to gather his scattered papers, hands shaking, and Eli reaches forward, offering help with gentle, steady fingers. Their eyes meet again, one asking a question, the other waiting for it to be spoken. Victor gathers the last paper and stands, breathing hard, though he has barely moved. Eli waits without shifting, giving Victor space to find whatever courage he is searching for. A strange tightness grips Victor's chest as he forces out the question that has been clawing at him. Why does Eli look so content in a life that appears so empty? Eli's smile widens just a little, as if he has been asked this question 1,000 times yet still finds joy in answering it. A passing bus sends mist sweeping over them, but the moment remains still, suspended. Victor presses a hand to his forehead, frustration and longing intertwining, as he wonders whether he truly wants the truth or fears it. The rain softens to a gentle drizzle, leaving the air cool and strangely quiet. Victor feels the weight of the city fade as he studies Ellie's expression, searching for cracks and finding none. Eli finally speaks, his voice steady, carrying a note of warmth that pierces through Victor's guarded exterior. The words aren't complex or profound, just honest. Victor leans in slightly, almost afraid of missing a single syllable. Eli's calm presence draws him closer, stirring a flicker of something Victor hasn't felt in a long time: hope. For a moment, the world narrows to just the two of them, a man drowning in success and a man anchored in simplicity. Victor steps closer until only a few inches separate them, the storm now little more than a memory dripping from their clothes. He finally asks the question he's been holding inside, the one that stings with vulnerability. What does happiness feel like when you have nothing? Eli watches him with a steady, knowing expression, then lifts his gaze to the gray sky as if searching for the right place to begin. Victor's heart beats unsteadily, sensing that the answer, whatever it is, might change something deep within him. A distant rumble of thunder rolls across the clouds as Eli breathes in slowly, preparing to reshape the richest man's understanding of everything he thought mattered. The drizzle fades into a soft mist as Eli lowers his gaze from the sky and looks directly at Victor. His answer begins not with certainty, but with a story spoken slowly, as if each word must be handled with care. He tells Victor that happiness isn't something he found. It was something he learned to feel in moments when he had nothing left but breath and time. Victor listens, drawn into the rhythm of his voice, noticing how the world feels quieter with every sentence. A strange pressure settles in Victor's chest, not painful, but unfamiliar, like he has stepped into a truth he has avoided for years. Cars pass in the distance, but their noise seems muffled, swallowed by the honesty between them. Victor doesn't interrupt, afraid that if he speaks, the fragile connection might break. Eli's voice deepens as he shares a memory, one of loss, quiet enough that Victor has to lean in to hear it over the hum of distant traffic. For a moment, Eli's smile fades, revealing the weight he carries but rarely shows. Victor's throat tightens as he listens, struck by how gently Eli speaks about pain that would have broken him. The honesty unsettles Victor, stirring an ache he thought he had buried beneath years of success and noise. The air feels heavier, not with sorrow, but with truth. Victor glances at his reflection in a puddle and barely recognizes the man staring back. He senses that Eli's story is leading somewhere deeper, somewhere he has never dared to go. Victor finds himself asking questions he never intended to voice. Simple ones at first, but layered with fear he can't hide. Eli answers each with the same gentle steadiness, never rushing, never judging. Victor feels something opening inside him, a door he didn't realize he had locked. He wonders aloud if happiness is even possible for someone whose life looks perfect on paper, but feels hollow in every silent moment. Eli doesn't laugh, doesn't dismiss him. Instead, he nods slowly, as if he understands far more than Victor expects. The moment stretches, warm and fragile, like the first hint of sunrise after a long night. Eli shifts slightly, drawing a slow breath before telling Victor that happiness isn't a treasure discovered, but a choice repeated. Victor feels the words settle into him like warm stones. The idea seems simple, yet something about the way Eli says it makes it feel profound. Victor looks around the street, the worn bricks, the scattered puddles, the faded glow of early morning, and wonders when he stopped noticing the world. Eli's gaze stays on him, patient and steady, as if waiting for the truth to sink in. Victor doesn't speak, but something in his silence changes. A soft acceptance he didn't know he needed. A subtle shift in the air makes Victor aware of how long he has been standing there, talking to a man he had once overlooked. Something in Eli's presence feels steadying, like an anchor he didn't expect. Eli finishes his thought with a quiet warmth that lingers in the space between them. Victor exhales, the sound shaky but genuine, as if releasing years of tension he never acknowledged. He doesn't have the courage to say it aloud yet, but he knows this moment, this conversation, has already begun to pull him toward a different understanding of himself. And for the first time in a long while, he feels a small spark of possibility. Victor shifts his weight, glancing down the street, as if remembering another world he is supposed to belong to. A world of meetings, schedules, and people who expect him to keep moving. Yet he feels rooted here beside Eli, drawn to the quiet steadiness that has begun to ease something inside him. Eli senses his hesitation and asks softly whether Victor has anyone he talks to like this. The question lands hard. Victor thinks of his daughter, the distance between them widening each year, built from missed dinners and broken promises. His chest tightens. He admits he doesn't talk to anyone. Not really. Not about anything that matters. Eli nods slowly, as though unsurprised. Victor feels a sting of shame and an odd sense of relief all at once. Eli asks softly about Victor's family, and Victor hesitates before mentioning his daughter, Mia. The name feels heavy on his tongue, wrapped in guilt. He describes the growing silence between them, the way she barely looks at him when he comes home. Eli listens without interrupting, his calm presence urging Victor to continue. Victor admits he doesn't know when the distance began, only that he kept choosing work, hoping success would somehow make up for everything. Eli's eyes soften with quiet sympathy, and for a moment Victor sees not a stranger, but someone who understands the cost of losing connection. The realization stirs a fragile ache he can no longer ignore. Eli leans back slightly, considering Victor's words, then tells him that distance isn't built in a day. It grows one unattended moment at a time. Victor looks away, ashamed, but Eli isn't blaming him. Instead, he shares a story about his own daughter, Grace, and how life pulled them apart after his struggles began. Victor listens, surprised by how easily Eli speaks of his mistakes. The honesty feels like permission to admit his own failures without collapsing under them. Victor feels something shift inside him, a door opening to the possibility that the broken pieces of his life might still be mendable if he chooses to reach for them. Victor asks what Eli would do if he were him, if he had the wealth and power to fix everything. Eli smiles faintly, shaking his head. He tells Victor that money has nothing to do with mending a heart. Presence does. Victor absorbs the words slowly, the truth settling deeper than he expected. Eli explains that people don't remember grand gestures. They remember who stood beside them when the world felt heavy. Victor realizes how rarely he has stood beside anyone, even those he loves. The thought tightens his throat. He wonders whether it's too late, whether Mia has already given up on him. Quiet conviction tells him that it isn't. A quiet moment stretches between them, filled with unspoken understanding. Victor looks at the sidewalk, at the papers still tucked under his arm, then at Eli, this man who has nothing, yet somehow knows everything Victor has spent years trying to buy. A calm settles over him, unfamiliar, but welcome. He asks Eli what happiness feels like now, after everything he has lived through. Eli smiles slowly, tilting his head with gentle reflection. He says happiness feels like choosing to stay open, even when life tries to close you off. Victor breathes in deeply, the air cooler and clearer than before. For the first time, he feels he's learning something real. Victor shifts closer, feeling a pull he can't quite name. A question rises inside him, one he rarely asks anyone. He wants to know how Eli kept going after life pushed him so far down. Eli notices the tension in Victor's shoulders and answers before the question fully forms. He explains that purpose doesn't disappear just because circumstances do. It only hides until someone chooses to look for it again. Victor feels the words press against something buried deep inside him. He thinks of the nights he stared at the ceiling in his penthouse, surrounded by everything except meaning. For the first time, he wonders if purpose could be something he must build rather than wait for. The idea feels fragile, terrifying, and strangely hopeful. Victor lowers himself onto a nearby step, unwilling to stand above Eli anymore. The shift feels symbolic, though he can't explain why. Eli watches him settle, then tells him that happiness grows when people stop trying to outrun their own hearts. Victor lets the words sink in. He thinks about all the years he sprinted towards success, believing it would shield him from pain. Yet here he is, finding comfort on a wet sidewalk beside a man the world ignores. Eli's voice is gentle but steady, weaving through Victor's thoughts like a quiet guide. Victor realizes he has never slowed down long enough to understand himself. The thought both scares and steadies him. Eli leans forward, telling Victor that people often forget joy because they fear losing it. Victor feels the truth of that more deeply than he expects. He remembers accomplishments celebrated alone, victories that felt hollow, and moments he rushed through because he feared they wouldn't last. Eli explains that happiness isn't a guarantee. It's a decision repeated even on difficult days. Victor thinks of Mia again, of the missed chances to sit with her, listen to her, be present. The guilt mixes with determination, forming something new inside him. He whispers that he wants to try, even if he doesn't know where to begin. Eli smiles softly, as if that single sentence is enough. Victor asks whether Eli ever felt angry at life for taking so much. Eli's gaze turns distant for a moment, but when he speaks, his tone holds no bitterness. He explains that anger stayed with him for years, but it drained more than it healed. Victor feels the weight of that truth. He has spent his life fighting invisible battles, anger, fear, loneliness, without ever naming them. Listening to Eli speak with such peace makes something break open inside him. He admits softly that he is tired of pretending, tired of running, tired of being lost in the very life he built. Eli nods, accepting the confession without judgment, offering steadiness where Victor expects shame. A quiet stillness settles as Victor exhales, the breath long and shaky. Eli's words linger around him, soft but powerful. Victor doesn't fully understand happiness yet, but he knows he's beginning to move toward it. Eli lifts his gaze to the sky as if gauging the day's next chapter, then looks back at Victor with a question that feels like an invitation. Is he willing to change? The simplicity of it startles him. Change has always meant risk. Risk to reputation, risk to routine, risk to the familiar walls he built around himself. But now, sitting on a cold sidewalk with a man who has far less yet feels far more whole, Victor senses the answer forming quietly inside him. He nods. Victor rises slowly from the step, feeling a steadiness he hasn't felt in years. He tells Eli he wants to understand more about life, about people, about himself. Eli nods as if he expected this moment, then pushes himself up with careful movements. For the first time, they stand eye to eye, sharing a quiet breath of mutual respect. Victor notices how naturally Eli fits into the world, how grounded he seems, despite having so little. A passing breeze carries the soft scent of rain-washed pavement, and Victor realizes he wants to stay in this moment longer than he should. Eli adjusts his coat and asks Victor what he thinks happiness requires. Victor doesn't have an answer yet, but he knows he wants to find one. Eli begins walking slowly down the sidewalk, and Victor falls into step beside him. The city sounds rise and fall. A distant siren, a rumbling bus, the soft drip of water from rooftops. Victor feels strangely exposed, walking without purpose except to understand himself. Eli tells him that people chase happiness like a finish line, forgetting it's meant to be lived, not won. Victor listens, absorbing each word like a quiet truth he wishes he had learned long ago. They walk past shop windows and closed cafes, reflections shimmering in streaked glass. Victor feels the weight of his choices pressing on him, but for once, the weight doesn't crush. It guides. As they walk, Victor asks Eli what he would change if he could start over. Eli considers the question, then smiles softly. He says he would worry less about what he lost and focus more on what he still had. Victor feels the words settle deep, stirring memories of moments he pushed aside. Maya's drawings he never looked at, dinners he promised but missed, quiet evenings he filled with work instead of presence. The regret sharpens, but so does the desire to fix what he still can. Eli glances at him with understanding, as if sensing the shift in his thoughts. Victor realizes he hasn't spoken this openly with anyone in years. They pause at a small corner where a narrow alley meets the main street. The world feels quieter here, sheltered from the rush of cars. Eli tells Victor that people often search for happiness in things they can hold, but forget that the strongest joys come from moments they share. Victor feels those words echo inside him, fragile and powerful. He admits he has spent years standing alone at the top of everything he built, only to realize he had no one to stand there with him. Eli places a gentle hand on Victor's arm, a simple gesture that carries more comfort than Victor expected. The connection grounds him, reminding him he doesn't want to live the way he has anymore. Victor whispers that he's tired of feeling empty in a life built to impress everyone but himself. Eli absorbs the confession with a calm steadiness, then tells him that emptiness isn't a curse. It's a sign the soul is asking for something real. Victor breathes deeply, letting the idea settle in. He doesn't have all the answers, but he feels a spark of direction, something warm enough to steady his steps. Eli begins walking again, and Victor follows, no longer out of confusion, but out of a quiet trust. Together they move toward a street, brightening with early morning light. And for the first time, Victor feels the beginning of something new. As they reach the end of the block, Victor notices a young man across the street, fiddling nervously with a small camera. At first, he thinks nothing of it, just another passerby documenting the city. But Eli glances at the man with a knowing smile, and Victor senses something shifting in the air. The young man inches closer, drawn by the strange pairing of billionaire and beggar walking side by side. Victor feels a flicker of discomfort, unsure how this moment might look to the world. Yet he doesn't step away. Something inside him has changed too much for that. Eli continues speaking softly, about choosing connection over fear, and Victor listens, unaware that their quiet conversation is about to travel farther than either expect. Victor notices the camera finally and feels tension rise in his chest. Old instincts flare, protect the image, hide the vulnerability. But Eli continues walking with calm, unbothered by the attention. Victor watches him and realizes that Eli lives without fear of being seen. It strikes Victor deeply how freeing that must feel. Arlo inches closer, apologizing for interrupting, but confessing he overheard part of their conversation. Victor freezes, uncertain what to say, but Eli greets the young man with gentle warmth. Victor stands between discomfort and curiosity, unsure which part of him will speak next. Arlo admits he has been searching for real stories, ones that offer hope, and something about the way Victor and Eli spoke stopped him in his tracks. Victor's first instinct is to shut the conversation down, retreat back into the familiar walls he always hides behind. When he looks at Eli, he sees a quiet encouragement that steadies him. Eli explains that wisdom is meant to be shared, not guarded. Victor takes a slow breath, realizing that maybe this moment isn't a threat but an opportunity. The thought feels fragile, but it holds. He nods slightly, allowing the young journalist to continue. Arlo lifts the camera slowly, asking if he can record a small part of their conversation. Victor hesitates, the weight of reputation tugging at him. But Eli's gentle nod reassures him. Victor finally agrees, though his voice trembles slightly. Arlo begins recording, and Eli shares a simple truth about happiness, that it isn't measured by what rests in your hands, but by what rests in your heart. Victor listens as though hearing it for the first time, the words settling into him with surprising warmth. When the camera lowers again, the moment feels intimate, honest, and unexpectedly important. Arlo thanks them, promising to share their story with care. Victor watches him walk away, feeling the strange mix of fear and relief that comes with letting the world see something real. Eli stands beside him in quiet satisfaction, as though he knew this moment would unfold exactly as it did. Victor turns to him, unsure whether he should feel exposed or grateful. Eli simply says that sometimes the world needs reminders that happiness can survive even in unlikely places. Victor feels the truth of that, and for the first time, he hopes that others might find what he is beginning to feel now. The morning grows brighter as Victor and Eli slowly make their way back toward the main street. Victor feels lighter with every step, as though shedding years of heaviness he never admitted carrying. Cars begin to fill the road and the city hum returns, but it no longer feels overwhelming. Victor asks Eli what he should do next, how to take what he's learned and make it real. Eli answers gently, saying that change begins with the smallest choices, not grand plans. Victor thinks of Mia again, of the distance that has grown between them like a wall he built without noticing. The thought makes his heart tighten, but now it feels like something he can reach through, instead of something he must avoid. Victor stops near a quiet intersection, realizing he cannot leave without telling Eli the truth. He admits he arrived this morning, feeling lost in ways he didn't know how to name, and that Eli's words changed something inside him. Eli listens with kind patience, letting the confession land without interruption. Victor's voice softens as he thanks him, not just for the advice, but for seeing him when few ever do. Eli smiles warmly, reminding him that everyone needs to be seen, especially those who seem strongest. Victor feels a swell of emotion he struggles to contain, grateful for a man the world often overlooks, but who has offered more than anyone in years. Eli places a hand on Victor's shoulder, telling him that happiness grows when it is shared, and now Victor must share it where it matters most. Victor breathes deeply, feeling the truth anchor him. He thinks of Mia waiting at home, unsure if she even expects him anymore. The idea of facing her fills him with both fear and hope. Eli steps back, giving Victor space to choose his next move. The city around them begins to brighten with morning activity, and Victor realizes this is the moment everything changes, not through wealth or power, but through presence. He promises himself he will not waste it. Victor finally asks Eli how he can repay him, but Eli's answer is simple. Help someone who needs it, just as you did today. The words strike Victor with a tender force. He realizes Eli never wanted anything from him. Not his money, not his influence. Only his presence. Victor nods, understanding that the best repayment is to live differently. Eli begins to step away, saying he has somewhere to be, but Victor senses the quiet pride in his voice. They share a final look. Two men from opposite worlds connected by the same truth. Victor watches Eli walk down the street, a small but powerful figure moving with calm purpose. Victor turns toward the main road, feeling the day open in front of him like a fresh chapter. The city no longer seems cold or overwhelming. It feels alive, full of possibility. He reaches into his pocket and pulls out his phone, not to check messages but to call Mia. His finger hesitates for a moment, then presses the button. As the phone rings, Victor finally understands what Eli meant. Happiness begins not with having more, but with choosing what matters. He breathes deeply, ready to rebuild what he lost, ready to show his daughter the version of himself he always meant to be. When her voice answers, soft and surprised, a new warmth rises in him. The journey isn't over, but it has finally begun.